All right. Well, here we are, Faith in the Struggle, and so glad that you could join me. Jamie, what an awesome name, Jamie and Jamie. I mean, come
Yes.
on. And I wanted specifically, it's a little bit, and I think I was telling you before, it's a little bit different of an episode in that it's obviously we have to be a little bit careful. We're going to be talking about your journey through Church of the Latter-day Saints, Mormonism,
Yep.
and I think anyone who's interested in learning more about that and more about like differences and the problems, but also the problems that can come with childhood religious. I don't know if trauma is the right word, but
No.
problems and
Yes,
sometimes trauma,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the right word for you, but for some it is, right?
Yep.
Where they're too afraid to even explore faith because they've been so hit up by
Absolutely.
some kind of legalistic church or cult or whatever.
Yep.
So I thought it would be very good, but at the same time, you have family, you have friends who are still Mormons,
Yes.
and so we're not saying these are horrible people we should shun. We're just
No.
talking about the faith and your struggle searching,
Yes.
But it's a little different in like you experience cancer. 100% of us, I think, can all agree that we hate cancer.
Yes.
Except for maybe pharmaceutical companies. but
Yeah.
That's a different episode.
Yep.
for
Yeah, completely different episode there. Yeah.
But that
Conspiracy
way
theories there.
we all say, yeah, cancer's horrible. Let's talk about your journey through it. People might not think, they might think it's just another branch of Christianity, which it is not.
No.
And we need to make sure people understand that. But so I guess the best place to start is where it all started for you, and that was obviously as a kid in your family.
Yep. Yeah, for me, I was born into the faith. So my genealogy and my family goes all the way back to Joseph Smith days, so the founder of the Mormon Church.
And Joseph Smith was, for people who don't know, was supposedly what? He went to a cave.
Yeah, so Joseph Smith didn't go to a cave like Muhammad,
was
but he
Muhammad,
went
yeah.
off into the woods in northern New York.
Right.
1833 is when the church started. So it was 1820s, I think it was,
Yep.
23, somewhere around there. The story goes, and I got to remember myself at times, but he was around the Methodists and all the different churches at the time. He didn't know where to go, what to do. He was a teenager. And he uses James 1:5 a lot. Ask and you shall receive. Ask with an open heart, and I'll tell you where to go. And he claims that he went off into the woods, and two angels came to him, very much like Muhammad, and told him that none of the churches are true. You're going to start your own church. Eventually, he was deemed and given the golden plates of Moroni. He was the only one that was allowed to interpret those golden plates.
And he was a teenager.
He was a teenager when it started, and then it was a couple years later, in his 20s, when it happened. And all of these things growing up, you hear them as a child, and there's no real distinction between the stories you hear in the Bible and the stories you hear in the Mormon book as a child.
Right.
You're not asking critical thinking type questions. It's just another Bible story,
Yeah.
right? So, okay, my parents say that this is the way. My grandparents say that, great-grandparent, all the way through. They're pretty successful. It must be true. Growing up as a kid in the Mormon faith, I do a lot of distinction between the culture of Mormonism and the cult of Mormonism. It really is the culture of Mormonism is a wonderful culture. It's family. It's more family oriented than any any culture I've seen out there. It's very, very similar to. Again, I keep bringing up Islam. It's very family oriented. And if you took the theology away from it, or you fixed the theology to make it biblically based, it would be a utopia for some.
Do you think it was always that way, or did it develop over time? That
Yeah.
wasn't really Joseph Smith's
No,
imprint.
no, that wasn't. Yeah, the church has changed so much from when he started it with his original 12 apostles all the way up to today. The polygamy, all of that goes on with the 1800s of Mormonism. Polygamy was deemed not only part of the religion, but essential in order to be saved, until about the late 1800s, when the United States government simply said, no, you can't do that. And
I always thought a joke that said, I mean, A horny teenager starts a religion.
Yeah.
He's gonna have lots
This
of
is
girls.
what's going to happen.
And he doesn't know enough to think they shouldn't all be wives. That's
No.
a bad
No,
idea.
gosh. I tell Monica mine all the time, I can barely handle you.
I know. It's just
What would I
either
wanna
way,
do?
it wouldn't be good. And if you read the Bible, whenever it happens, it just never works out.
Well, that's the thing too. Is you talk to a lot of Mormon apologists, and they'll say, "Well, it was in the Bible."
Yeah, right.
It was in the Bible, but that was a description of activities.
Never
in the
was
Bible.
prescriptive.
Never a prescription.
And it was always a description of disaster.
Exactly. Yep.
Or nothing. But
Nothing.
If it was anything, it was, wow, that was really not good.
Yep.
Jealousy, strife, like all kinds of divisiveness because of it.
I mean, look
Which
at David.
makes sense.
Solomon. Well, I mean, every time it's happened in the Bible, it was there and it's part of the descriptive story, but it ended up in destruction in one way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that changed. U.S. government said no. And
Yep. U.S. government said no, and that's why you'll see now larger Mormon communities in Mexico.
Yeah.
At that point, they stood on their laurels, the Mormon faith,
Yeah.
and got out of town. A lot of them. A lot of the sects.
Mexican government doesn't care how many wives you have.
I don't think Mexican government cares about much, as long as they keep the money coming in. Right. In Canada as well. So,
Yeah.
but going through that, growing up in the Mormon faith was a wonderful environment, especially where I was. Grew up in northeastern Nevada, right next to Utah, so just west of Utah.
Yep.
Utah is, not the birthplace of Mormonism. Actually,
New York.
New York is.
They moved to Utah to
Yep,
people leave him alone, if I remember correctly.
Pretty much, yeah. He was in New York, and people were like, "You're nuts. This isn't happening." He moved down into the Midwest, Chicago, Illinois, Missouri area, was there. And then it was actually around that time that my family's genealogy, believe the genealogy stories or not, we'll see, but on one side of my family, the men were claimed to have been Joseph Smith's bodyguards or sort of Secret Service type guys.
Okay.
When he was being hunted down by the U.S. government, they were in charge of, getting him around and
Security.
whatnot. Security.
Yeah.
Apparently they failed because that's where he was eventually assassinated and killed as he was coming out of jail.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, from there they got, basically became pioneers.
Yeah.
And they were part of the big movement out west. Brigham Young took them out west, came into the Salt Lake Valley, settled there, and that's where they've been ever since in terms of their center. Yeah, that is their, what does the Catholics have it? It's
Rome, Rome.
Yeah, I always say Rome, but they have their own little country, right? And I can't remember the name of the town, but it's basically Salt Lake's the same way. It's where all the temples
Lake,
are. Multiple temples throughout. But again, it's the
Vatican is what you're
the
saying.
Vatican. That's what I was thinking. Yes.
It's like, I know the word, and it's just not there. Stop asking questions, all right? It's my job.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so back to the family thing, because you grew up in that. And we were just talking to actually a youth pastor who was in Colorado for a while, and a lot of Mormons were around him. And he said the same thing. He's like, we can learn a lot from their family values.
Oh, yeah. You absolutely can.
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember growing up with things like family home evening was a thing, right? It was like Monday or Tuesday was family home evening. The family is at home. The father and the mother are doing basically Bible studies, or you're doing activities. You start getting the kids involved in running a family home evening, right? Bobby, next week you're running family home evening. You're going to run an activity, whether it's charades or a Bible study. It's a big activity. It's a 2 or 3 hours. It's almost akin to, doing daily devotionals.
Yeah.
And then Wednesday nights is youth group. All the kids go off to youth group, and then mom and dad is usually, doing some kind of Bible study, or they're getting a date night in or something like that. And then Sunday is, when I grew up, it was always a 3-hour service. So Sundays were an hour of a Sunday school activity for, men, women. They go to their own separates, kids. You have what's called sacrament, which is essentially mass or the sermon. And then they have another Sunday school of some type, whether it's all the adults and all the kids. So it's always a 3-hour thing. As a kid, it was brutal. It was like, 3 hours. Here we go.
See, anyone who complains about our long service, see Jamie.
Yep.
Like, this is nothing.
Yep. But as a kid growing up, every church had a basketball court in it too. So, that was the one thing that we looked forward to as kids going to church.
Yeah. Wonder why BYU's often got a good basketball team.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. 'Cause there's a basketball court in every church, and there's probably in every parking lot in Utah, there's a basketball court.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
But I grew up with my mom. My mom was a single mom from the age of 4. So my biological dad left at 4, left me, my brother, and my sister, and mom. And mom was single until I was 11. So there was 8, 9 years there where I was at church a lot, right? She utilized, it wasn't babysitting, but I was at every youth service. I was at every youth group. I was in Boy Scouts. I got, what I always say is I got the good parts of the Mormon faith and the Mormon culture. And then the way the Mormon church or theology works is when you're 13, when you're 8, you get baptized. It's not sprinkling of water. It is full immersion. But when you're 8, you're deemed to be able to make your own choices. I'm not letting my 8-year-olds make choices, but that's how it goes. So right. I was baptized at 8. And
your first wife.
Yep, that's your first wife. Yep. But at the age of 13, they have, for men, levels to grow into what's eventually deemed the high priesthood. So every man eventually becomes a high priest or a priest if they have all the proper works done, right? So you're a tithing payer. Obviously, that's number one. You've done various routines. You've done various activities. You're married. I think nowadays you don't have to be married, but you have to go through certain things. And to get there, you go through levels, right? And they utilize a lot of biblical theology and biblical terms to help justify it. So you'll go through a deacon. When you're 13, you can be a deacon.
Okay.
And then when you're 15, you become a teacher, I believe. And then 17, you become an elder. And I should have looked this up before we came, but it's something along those lines. Sure. Deacon, teacher, elder, then a priest when you become 18, 19, and then a high priest after you've gone on your mission and you've come back and those kinds of things. So around the age of 13, I was brought in. I became a deacon and started down that path within the church. And around 13 as well, I started hanging out with the wrong crowd too. Yeah. And mom was working 4 jobs. My new stepfather, who's actually my father, he adopted us when I was 14. That's behind our last name. We took his name on. They were working all the time. I was sort of, I don't want to say a feral child, but back in the days, when you could just go and come and go as you wanted. Got in with the wrong crowd, got into drugs, alcohol, did that stuff from about age 14 to 20 or so.
Were you still doing all the things kind of hypocritically at that point? Or?
No, just stopped going to church.
Yeah.
Just outright stopped going to church. Everything else was too important for that, right? Finding the next high or hanging out with the friends, when's the next party. Barely graduated high school, so we, just stopped going to school and just fell away from faith completely. But it wasn't because of any bad relationship with the Lord or with Christ. It was, I made bad decisions and I was going down the wrong road with the wrong people. So, growing up again in the faith, it was, and that's the other thing I try to reiterate to everyone when we have this discussion is Christ is not bound by walls or a religion. Right. Christ is everywhere. Christ is through the walls, no matter what church you belong to or don't belong to. Christ is chasing every single one of us. Now, when you go back into the theology of the Mormon religion and the Jesus Christ of the Mormon religion, that is not Christ, right? Mormons believe that Jesus Christ was a created being, a child of God, but a brother of Lucifer. Right. And that is not biblical. But they don't teach you growing up as a child, they say those terms, right? They say, yeah, he's the child of God. Same thing as we say, he is the child of God. And same thing as the Bible says, he's the child of God. But then they get into, yeah, he's the brother of Lucifer, and then, go on to the next subject. And you don't really put one and one together, as a child, you just don't put these things together.
Isn't it, they had their own planets or something?
And that's the kind of stuff I did not understand or know about until
You looked
later
into it
on. Yeah.
So they really didn't teach you that stuff?
Not as a child.
What would they pretty much just teach a child?
They would teach a child
morality,
yeah, manners, morality, making sure that you're not getting into drugs. Obviously, I didn't listen very well,
But they would they say no caffeine, alcohol.
Yep.
Obviously, no drugs, hard drugs, or anything like that. Smoking or anything like
Smoking.
that.
Yep. Abstinence was a big one with the kids, right?
Yep.
Abstinence, making sure that you're not doing that. If you're dating somebody, you should be dating somebody within the faith. A big one was, and what always got me, and I look back at it as an adult, during sacrament, which is the sermon period, a very famous saying of the Mormon faith, and I don't know if it still is, but every time somebody would get up, they would get in front of, it's a lay church as well.
Yep.
So the lay people teach the sermons. It's not a pastor or a bishop or an associate pastor. It's everybody sort of gets a chance at it.
Yeah.
But every time somebody gets up in front of the congregation I know Joseph Smith was our true prophet. I know the Mormon church is true. And growing up hearing that, it was just something that happened. It was a muscle memory thing. You don't put two and two together.
Yep.
But as I got a little older, I would always ask myself why do we need to keep reiterating that?
Yeah.
And you would ask around, because people don't think that Joseph Smith is a prophet. And then that's the end of the story. But having those kinds of questions, they don't really ever answer them as a child either. They just simply faith.
So when someone teaches a sermon, are they typically opening the Book of Mormon, the Bible, and doing kind of what we do, but just twist it a little bit, or are they just kind of doing moral lessons? And
most of it is, so if the lay person that was teaching that day is a father or, somebody who's higher up in the church or one of the teachers, they may teach more scriptural sermons. They rely heavily on the Book of Mormon, though.
Yeah.
They will reference the Bible where it helps the Book of Mormon.
Yeah.
But their core scriptures are Doctrine and Covenants, the Book of Mormon, and the Pearl of Great Price. So these are three of the revelations of the church. And then they have a monthly magazine that comes out, the Ensign. And in that monthly magazine, the current prophet, could have a new revelation and could change whatever happened last month, last year, what Joseph Smith said 150 years ago. So it's a evolving or a growing faith, and always what they refer to as revelation is coming into. So, for instance, 1978, I was born in 1978. Up until that time, a black person couldn't hold the priesthood.
Okay.
Until they had a revelation in 1978 that is now changed and that can happen.
Good revelation.
Yeah, it's a good revelation. They're just 500 years late. Or 2,000 years late, actually.
Yeah.
Or
even 10 years late from the civil rights movement.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And that's what it was. They're very, I guess the core tenets is really just, it's a business model at this point.
Well, I was going to ask you, I think especially where we are, depending on where you are in the country, where you grew up, even if you weren't Mormon, you would have been exposed to them a lot more than we are here.
Absolutely.
Pastor Christian was telling me they have a lot down south. He said they come, they look at us as a mission field because it's like the Bible Belt, got to get you to get on the real faith. But I think around here, people tend to, if they think of it at all, think of them similar to the Jehovah's Witness.
Very much so.
In that the model seems very similar.
Yes.
You go door to door.
Yep.
You have the the different beliefs, a little bit of legalistic, some of it can produce good results. You know, making family night. We have the freedom in Christ. We can't do that, but we sure do recommend it.
Yes.
You know, it's a really great practice. When you can actually force people to do it, there's going to be some good things. And when you don't let them drink or do drugs, that does a lot of damage to families, right? So you think about how, but so Jehovah's Witnesses but their belief systems are completely different.
Completely different.
But the model, and I wonder if it's because it's similar time period.
It is similar time period, and it's similar, in my opinion, it's similar focus is the family, right?
Yeah.
If you can control the family, you can control what you're trying to get that family to do, right? If you can control the man in the family, you've got the rest of the family.
Yeah.
Which both Christ and the devil know. Right. And that's the way I've been looking at it now that I know the Bible more so than I ever had today is you and I and all the men in our families, we have the biggest target on our back.
Sure.
And looking at the Jehovah's Witness, Mormonism, some of these other cults like this, is if you can sell the faith on, hey, look, our families are a wonderful thing, it's easier to make that sell. So that's.
But I wonder, because I think I tell people all the time that the definition of a cult is people think of drinking the grape juice and all of that. It's actually just simply twisted biblical Christianity.
It is
using terms that we might, and it can be very confusing. Right, because they use terms like deacon and elder and teacher and biblical terms that they just use them poorly.
Sacrament, right? They have sacrament every Sunday. Right, and you have to have a certain authority within the church to bless the sacrament. And it's bread and water. It's
even call themselves the Church of Jesus Christ and Latter-day Saints.
Yeah. In fact, you ask them more now. If you ask them today versus 10 years ago and 20 years ago, they're distancing themselves more and more from Mormonism. Or even LDS to the Church of Jesus Christ of the Latter-day Saints. Right? And you'll see it a lot more now online too, is we are all Christians. We're Christians. We believe in Christ. It's in our name. Look, it's in our name.
But they don't believe the gospel.
They don't believe the gospel.
Yeah.
And what they do there too is, I can remember growing up, my mom and family members would be, yes, we believe in the Bible. It's the cornerstone of our faith. But it has to be the King James Version Bible, the 1611 or 1618 version of the Bible. And thinking about that on its face, that makes sense. You want to go as far back as you can to get the original interpretation. Until you dig into it and you look at it logically and you realize the word gay today means something very different today than it did back then. And that's why I don't think... I personally believe 90% of the people in the faith of Mormonism aren't of the occult side of the Mormon faith, right? This is what they've been brought into, or it's what they were born into, and they are told things like that. Yes, we are Bible believing. We read the Bible, and they'll read the Bible. Absolutely, they'll read the Bible, but it's so much easier to take King James English and put an interpretation upon it, or what's it called? Not exegesis, but intergesis?
Eisegesis.
Eisegesis. You can take the eisegesis into the King James Bible.
Read into it is what it basically means.
Right? You can read.
And I think that's important.
You want.
Exegesis is where we say, all right, here's what the Scripture's saying. Now we apply it. One meaning, many many applications, but one meaning. But eisegesis is where it's like, I want to make a point. Where do I find a scripture that can say it, and maybe even find an interpretation, that it can make it say it.
And that's the cornerstone of it. It really is. And I mean, that's what Joseph Smith did from day one.
But it's interesting, think of Joseph Smith when he did that. It was just because he was just familiar with all of the Christian religions. He was like, I'm just going to spin it. Obviously you can't be in his head.
No.
But it just, whether it's them or the Jehovah's Witnesses, why not just form a completely different religion and say, now Jesus didn't exist. Instead, they got to prey on the terms.
And that was some of the questions I asked as I ran into my faith crisis, what it was called at the time. They refer to it as deconstruction nowadays. Back then, I asked some of those same questions: is why didn't he just take the Bible that he had at the time and become Methodist 2.0 or unit?
Right.
Looking into history, and just like we do with the Bible, right? We look at the Bible itself. The Bible will help to support itself, but you also look at outside sources, archaeology, history, those kinds of things. So I looked into that and come to find out in those times, wizardry and magic and witches and all of that was heavily, heavily influenced in the culture, especially up here in New England where he was born and lived.
Yeah.
And he was a magician. He was come to find out, he was very good with sleight of hand. He was very good at doing these types of things. Him and his buddies, manipulation.
Yeah.
So it reads into the character of the man, and it sort of helps you put two and two together. You say, okay, here's this guy who likes being a manipulative type person, or whether it's in evil or not. Obviously, in my opinion, it was very evil. But you look into the history of that and who the man was. Why was he doing this? Why was he acting like this? His father was a magician, right? And they would put little shows on and things like this. So it sort of falls in line. Those are the things that you won't find in Mormon history. You won't find that in Joseph Smith's genealogy. You're not going to find that stuff in there. But when you look at history of the area, non-secular type history, you'll see those kinds of things, and it starts to put things together and go, okay, that's more nefarious than you could have ever thought.
Yeah. So what's their version of salvation, heaven, hell? Like, is it just being part of the church or being baptized?
Yeah, first and foremost, you have to be Mormon. You have to be a member.
And then you get what? Heaven?
You can have multiple levels of heaven.
Yeah.
Yep. There's no such thing as hell.
Okay. It's just annihilation.
It's almost essentially like purgatory, but you get a second chance and a third chance, and you can continue to try to become better.
Okay.
But the basis of their salvation journey really is a works-based system, right? You have to become a deacon. Like even my father, my dad today, he was a Catholic when my mom and dad got married. He did not convert. He wasn't a heavy Catholic. Eventually, he converted to Mormonism.
Okay.
My dad, in his 40s, had to become a deacon.
Yeah.
Then he had to become a teacher.
Could you fast track that, or could you?
I think they fast tracked it a little bit, but he had to do all of the steps that each of the levels needed to do, right? He had to serve. He had to go do certain things at the church. He had to...
What about the mission trip? Did they make that a requirement if you already got a family?
No.
Yeah.
No. Nowadays, through Revelation, you don't have to go on a mission trip.
Okay.
But many folks do go on mission trips in their senior years, become retired, and they go out and they'll do senior missions. But no, for salvation, you have to do all those things: deacon, teacher, elder, and then a priest, and then you are now, okay, you're going to make it to a certain level of heaven. And I don't remember the 3 levels, but it's celestial, I'd have to look at the words, but there's 3 levels of heaven, and the 3rd level is the only level where you're going to see God. Those are taught to kids in terms of, there's 3 levels of heaven. Again, it goes along the storyline of, it's a Bible story. What they don't teach you is the planetary stuff. They don't teach you that they believe Joseph Smith and Jesus Christ are on the same quote-unquote level. They believe Joseph Smith was our prophet and eventually the God, or a God. But Jesus Christ is the God of this earth. And Jesus Christ was once like Joseph Smith and was once like us. So therefore...
So if Jesus was that impactful, why do we need Joseph Smith's revelation would be the question, right?
Yeah. Yep, there's a million of them.
We really screwed it up with Jesus, so I guess we need Joseph.
Yeah, he's a backup, right? He's the Robin to his Batman.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they have sort of the godlike aspects to Jesus, even though he's not the only one.
Yep.
But they don't really have a salvific Jesus, a cross that doesn't fit into it.
No, everything, you are saved through your works. They say through Jesus, because Jesus is the God of this world, but eventually God is the one that's going to make the ultimate decision at the judgment point.
Okay.
Their Trinity is different. So you'll have missionaries come to your house. They'll sit down with you. If you say, yeah, I'm interested in the church, and they'll go through what they call lesson plans with you. 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, and they'll walk you through. And I think it's like lesson number 2, they talk about the Trinity. And the Trinity is hard to get for anybody, right?
Yeah, of course.
It's a hard thing to imagine, especially for guys who are engineers. I need a black and white. It's like, what are you talking about? So if somebody talks to me about the Trinity, I'm like, okay, beforehand. But theirs is God is 3 persons, separate persons, but equal persons, not triune in one essence. So they are, very much...
They're equal in standing.
Equal in standing.
But they're separate.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And it's still Jesus, the Holy Spirit?
Yep. Jesus, they say the terms Holy Ghost.
Holy Ghost.
Yep.
Okay. And the Father.
And the Father. So it's the Father, Jesus, and then the Holy Ghost. All of them are separate. All of them have separate purposes. But if it wasn't for God, Jesus Christ wouldn't be here.
Right. He created him. And Lucifer, but Lucifer went bad.
Lucifer went bad. Yeah. Lucifer was the bad brother. Very much like with, again, Islam is, you have the 2 sons, Isaac and his 2 sons.
Oh, yeah, Ishmael.
Yeah. But yeah, it's sort of along those lines. That also, feeds into the fact that we can all be bad, right? But it's up to you and the work that you do whether you be saved. The other thing is, you have to be a man to get to a certain level. A woman will never have her own world or her own planet. Those kinds of things. When you get to your own planet, you're still, even though it's illegal here in this planet, you'll be able to have your second.
So when do they teach that about planets? Like when you get to the priesthood?
Yeah, that when you get to the priesthood. So what got me going back to church was...
so let's maybe go back to that. So you obviously had your bad days. Got into drugs, alcohol, the whole thing, and all that. Your family continued to go to church?
No.
They weren't really going?
No, we weren't really going, and that was it. We weren't creasters, so to speak. We would go whenever we could, but being in a single-family home, we went to church as kids more so than Mom, because Mom held 2 jobs. Yeah, she was busting her butt. And then when we got married, we always say we got married because it was my siblings and my mom. We married our dad, right?
Yeah.
Great man to take on a woman with 3 kids, especially the 3 of us idiots. But a saint in himself. When they got together, right, they were still working and just trying to make ends meet. We didn't go to church. They didn't push us to church. We would go for baptisms, or every once in a while somebody would get a hair up their backside, and we would go for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
Or my brother would need to become a deacon, and okay, we got to go to church for a couple weeks so he can become a deacon, those kinds of things.
Okay. So they didn't have, they had the rules, family night and all that, but they didn't really enforce it much.
It's up to the father in the house to have those kinds of enforcement, right?
Okay.
And sort of on a biblical stand, right? I'm the priest of my home, and if I'm doing daily devotions or I'm not, it's up to me to make that happen.
Okay.
But the church will keep tabs on that kind of stuff too.
Sure.
Right? They'll ask the men of the church, how are our devotions going? How's family home evening going? How are things going? To make sure that he's keeping up with his level in the church. It's very hierarchical. But we didn't go to church. I mean, once we got married, my mom went back to school, got her degree, went to, had 4 jobs. Dad was working his butt off. I was a teenager. My younger brother was a teenager. We just didn't go to church. My grandfather and those folks, in that generation, they went to church. They were high priests, but not nearly as much as what you would say you would do to become a proper Mormon.
Yeah.
So to speak. They weren't Sunday.
Yeah.
We moved away from Utah, and it was funny. they have not terms, but like if you moved out of Utah back in the 50s, you were like almost an apostate, right? Because now you're going out to the world and you might go the wrong way. And I guess my grandfather was the first to move out of Utah, and we went all downhill from there.
Yeah, clearly. Look at you. You're a
Yeah,
mess.
it's horrible. Yeah, no, beautiful family. But yeah, we did that. Got into trouble, drugs, got arrested twice within 2 weeks, right after I turned 18. And I said, okay, I gotta pull it out. It's way too far up my backside. I got to do something. So decided to move away, went down to Phoenix, went to college, and, turned around, went down, got my degree, met my wife. Thank God, because without her, I would probably be under a bridge somewhere. But we started our family. She comes from a Catholic background, again, a traditional cultural Catholic. Now we're going to, a true priester, and then had kids, 2 boys, and then that changes everything, right? Now it's not just me. It's, all right, what do I need to do for my kids?
Yeah.
My younger son, Ryan, he is me through and through. I couldn't deny him if I wanted to. He is strong-willed. He is opinionated. He doesn't give a darn what anybody thinks about him. None of that. Even his father. And the story goes, when he was around 7, we were out for dinner. We sat down at the dinner table at a restaurant, getting some burritos. And he did something. We don't, like most arguments, you never know what starts them, right?
Yeah.
He did something, and I told him, sit down, be quiet, tried to correct him, and he looked up to me and goes, what are you going to do about it? 7-year-old. First thing that comes to your mind is Homer Simpson, right?
Yeah.
So it was either I pull a Homer or I walk.
Yeah.
And I put the keys on the table, looked to my wife, simply said, I'm done, walked out. And we were about 5 miles from home, and I just walked home. 5 miles, took me probably 6 hours because I walked around. I just walked the streets and talked to God and said, I'm sorry. And that's what's nice about sort of the faith that my mom brought us up in. Even though it was in the Mormon faith and in the Mormon religion, we were in the Mormon culture, which was a beautiful culture.
Yeah.
It's a family culture. It's a culture that teaches you love. It teaches you how to love one another. And, if you get the true Christ, and Christ, like so I say, the walls don't stop doesn't stop Christ from coming in.
Yeah.
But he's always been there. I know he's been there, through days of being drunk or high or, getting arrested. I've known he was there. He's bailed me out more times than anybody could imagine. He saved my life so many times. And so he's always been in my life. So on that walk, I said, I don't know what to do. I am sorry. I'm sorry for what I've done. I'm sorry for the way I've treated my son. I had anger issues with when my son was younger. Help me. And, he just basically said, come back to me. And I said, okay, I'm coming back. I didn't, to me at the time, that meant going back to Mormonism. Right. And that's where I went. So went home, apologized to my family. My son was freaked out. He thought I was gone, give him a big hug. Back. Yeah. Yeah. He called on the phone. Back then we didn't have the iPhones, or they were just coming out. No, it wasn't that far ago. It's 2014. So we had phones. But he called, Dad, are you okay? And, apologized to him. And I basically sat my wife down and said, we're going back to church. And she knew what that meant.
She wasn't thinking Catholic. She was thinking, well,
yeah,
I guess I'm going to a Mormon tabernacle.
Yep, exactly. And again, God blessed me with a beautiful wife. It wasn't, well, we're going to the Catholic Church, or no, we're not. She has had my back from day one. She knows me and my ways in terms of if I get a bone, I'm not going to let go of it.
Right.
And she knows just to get out of the way and support me. I didn't know that then. She did. And she did. She supported me 100%. We got the boys, in Mormonism, it's very much suit and tie, Southern Baptist type, everything. So we got the kids suit and ties. We went back to church, started getting involved, met everybody, went for about a year. And the bishop who runs the local church Says, all right, well, you were a deacon at one time. We now need to get you to become a teacher. So we started that process. And I said, okay. And my engineering brain went into full effect. You know, if I get something, I want to research it. I want to start diving in. I want to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And I started taking classes internally at the church, what the theology is. And that's when things like the planetary involvement comes in, the polygamy comes in, the church history comes in. You know, I start digging into this stuff. And people, when I first voiced my faith crisis to people, especially within the Mormon church, the answer was, you've been online, huh? You've been reading anti-Mormon things, huh? You've been going to YouTube, huh? And actually, no. None of my questions came out of what was online or secular. Everything came from the Mormon text, came from Mormon resources.
Yeah, it's interesting. One of the key strategies of any cult is to control you. So like you're in, don't let outside for it. That's of the world. That's
Absolutely.
right. Stay in Utah, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
That's got a lot harder.
Yeah. With the internet, the internet changed everything.
Because before it's like you just can't go over to that home, or you can't read that book, or whatever it might be. Now it's, that's hard to control. So now they're just blaming the internet.
Yeah. That was the big thing back then. You know, it was, 10 years ago now. That was the big thing was, you can't be reading the anti-Mormon stuff on the internet. Everything's out there. You've got to rely on the resources in the church. And usually the Mormon church is ahead of the times when it comes to resources and information because they have the resources, the money. I mean, you'll see in the Mormon faith, especially the men in the Mormon faith are some of the most successful men in the world.
Yeah.
Doctors, lawyers, politicians, councilmen, you know, they take it serious, you know, that's part of salvation is to be successful.
Yeah.
And so they're highly intelligent. I always like to have a distinction between intelligence and wisdom, but wisdom can be both evil and good as well. But I was going to go down a squirrel hole and I don't want to do that. But I went back home, told my wife we're going back to church. We went back to church, got into it, and went to the bishop. He said, okay, we're going to get you through this. Started asking those questions, doing the research.
What did the rest of your family? I mean, your kids are younger at that time?
Yeah. My older son, Andrew, was 9, 10, and Ryan was 7, 8 at the time.
How did they take to going to church? They're fine with it?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we didn't go long enough for them to get to the point of, oh my gosh, here we go, another 3 hours of church.
Yeah.
Right? Everything was new for them. And especially my boys, they like an adventure, and they almost treated it as an adventure. They made new friends. We were going to school with other kids who were in the faith, playing baseball with some of the kids who were in the faith. So they took it on pretty well. The Mormon missionaries were coming over to my house once a week, meeting with us, and the missionaries were really good. Good with the boys and, you know, just loving people. So they took it pretty well. They were just following what mom and dad tells them what they should be doing and what we're doing. And so they were really good at taking that on.
Okay.
They did ask when I decided to no longer go, why we weren't going. And that was when I was able to start opening up and having questions and having discussions with the boys about faith and who Christ is. Unfortunately, I didn't have any of the right answers at the time. All I had was a ton of questions.
Yeah.
Right. And that was basically my answer to them was, you know, guys, I don't know if the Mormon faith is true. And so since I don't know, I don't want to put the family through this until I'm able to figure that out.
Yeah.
And they understood that. And by that time they were, okay, we don't have to go to church on Sunday. It's all right. We'll go do more baseball.
Yeah.
But as I was going through that, you know, going through the faith crisis and said, okay, asking these questions. So during my sit down with the bishop, what they do is they do an interview, probably like you do with members, or if you had to do a deacon, if you brought a new deacon or a new elder on, you have an interview process, right? So we sit down and we do an interview. One of the first questions is, do you believe Joseph Smith is the true prophet? Do you believe he is, something along the lines of, not, they don't say God because they don't think Joseph Smith is God, but they attest that Joseph Smith was and is our prophet, is basically what they say. And I, being the good, faithful Mormon at the time, yes. And then go through the rest of the interview, half hour, 45 minutes, talk, okay, you're going to do this, 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 and this. As soon as I walked out of that interview with him, though, I had a gut feeling, just something inside of me says something's wrong here. The bishop and I both left at the same time. He locked the doors behind us and we were walking out together. He got in his car, I got in my car. And as I was getting in my car, I had texted him and said, you know what? I don't want to continue this process, something along those lines. I don't feel I told you the truth, and I still have many questions. And his response was, okay, let's get back together. But then that was it. He never really had any more questions for me. He asked the missionaries to ask what was going on. The missionaries, they put these 18-year-old kids out in the world.
Yeah.
To fight for Christ. And I would never want to put a missionary in front of somebody who's on fire in the Bible who didn't have a loving heart, because they could gobble them up and destroy them.
Yeah.
And that's what you see with a lot of people, especially in the Mormon faith, at that time. And I was running into a lot of people. I was now starting to look online. A ton of people who run into these same situations and realize that faith is wrong, completely walk away from Christ altogether.
Yeah.
It was their foundation. And I guess that's where it goes back to, right, the title of the podcast, Faith in the Struggle. It was...
Yeah, because that, like we said, that it makes sense that Jesus, all these biblical terms, even the Bible itself, right, are interwoven with this. And now I don't believe it's the baby in the bathwater. It's not understanding or looking into it enough to realize, oh wait, they used terms, but they weren't using the right definitions.
Not at all. Not at all. And the further away you get from 1611, 1618 King James Version, the easier it is to have that, whether it's intended or not, manipulation.
It's funny, not funny, it's the wrong word, funny and disappointing, funny. A lot of the fundamental churches are the same way, King James. They use, they're not, planetary stuff and all that far off, but you see some of these clips, they're not preaching the gospel. They're preaching hair length and suit wearing and King James Bible. Otherwise, you're not a real Christian. And so, what are we doing?
It's insane. I mean,
so then someone who sits in that church, right, whether it's Fundamental Baptist Church or whatever it is, as a 13-year-old, and then they go through your story, their version of it, and then they're like, you know what? Should I go back to church? Like, that's what they know. That's church.
That's it. That's where they go back.
Maybe it's a little nicer somewhere else, but it's the same nonsense really isn't.
No. And that's what's scary about it, is all of these cults and all of these sects, whether it's intentional or not.
Well, we know what's behind it or who's behind it.
That's exactly where I was going.
The brother.
The brother. And that's all the brother wants.
Yeah.
If he gets you away from Christ, he wins.
Yeah.
That's all that matters.
Yeah.
He doesn't care if your hair's long or not. He doesn't care if you wear white underwear or not.
And it all preys on the same things everything in the world ends up fundamentally preying on: sex, control, money,
power,
success, power. It really just comes down to those things. And so you are now in this faith crisis, and you're researching stuff, going online.
Yeah, going online.
What's the rest of your family, your wife and kids thinking at that point? Just like,
Well, the boys, I wasn't doing hell and brimfire, right? I was also at the time finishing my MBA.
Yeah.
So I was doing all my online schooling at night at home in my office, in my home office. I've been absolutely blessed to be able to work from home when I'm not traveling, so I don't go to an office. So the boys are used to seeing me in the evenings in front of the computer.
Yeah.
right? Dad's either at school or he's working on his thesis or he's working on homework or he's looking at the Bible and at that time I was open with everybody. I'm doing some research into the church.
Yeah.
And so the boys are just like, all right, they were good with it. My wife knew exactly what was going on because after I would do my research, I mean, she is absolutely my best friend.
Yeah. So you bounce it off.
Oh my gosh, everything I can
But
take.
you said
from my
in
wife.
an early discussion, not on this podcast, but you had said that when you said, I don't feel right about this, she was already like,
She knew.
yeah.
Yeah, she knew from day one. And that's what I meant by saying she stepped out of the way.
Yeah.
She knew the bone that I had was wrong, but she let me walk with it and she walked right behind me to make sure that I didn't go off the rails anywhere.
Has she ever told you, maybe she doesn't even know because it didn't come to this, but would she have stepped in and said, we can't keep doing this?
Oh, yeah.
At a certain point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, it was funny. The missionaries would come over on a weekly basis. And Monica, as you get to know her, she is very much like my son in that she don't care what anybody thinks about her. She is probably the most authentic person I've ever met in my life. That's why she fits in so well here in New England. She just tells it outright.
Yeah.
And she does it with love.
Right.
And so she would be with the missionaries and she would ask them questions like, it's pretty unique and, convenient that your church always gets the prophet, right? That prophet dies. And then all of a sudden, Jesus Christ wants to put his next prophet in your church. And she would, all these pseudo-sarcastic remarks in love, but she knew that these missionaries, again, 18, 19, 20-year-old young men,
Yeah.
we're not going to devour these poor guys. We're not going to destroy them. But we didn't know enough at the time to help save them either. Right. We were still trying to figure out faith, who Christ was and all that at the time. But yeah, she would have. And she's told me several times, if you wanted me to go in and wear the white underwear, I was out. that wasn't happening. Things like that.
She was hoping, please.
Yeah. And she did. She let me do that. And she, she knew, and I think God was working within her. God was just telling her, just let him work through this. Let him get through this because knowing my personality, I'm very much a hands-on person. I need to break something to fix it and to know it works. Yeah. And my faith, I needed to break my faith in order to rebuild it so that it could be real because I can't have, especially now, I can't have a faith that's told to me without me digging in.
Yeah.
And that's why I hear people say, oh, it's just got to be on faith. And I understand that, right? Ephesians 1:10. I love the fact that we're going through that right now.
Yeah.
Or 2:10.
Yeah.
1 through 10. Because that's what the gospel is, right?
Sure.
You are dead.
Right.
And Christ is there. And upon your faith in him is where you're going to go. Nothing other than that. And to come to that point, it took a while to know what that faith is. But through the process, we were able to come to an agreement. Because we both knew, Monica and I both knew, and we've known from day one that Christ exists, that God is real, that there is something more than what we see here. Because we both have things that were in our path where it's undeniable.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely undeniable. There's times that I had almost died or times that I was out there and times I'll let Monica tell you her story. It's undeniable. But then putting the science behind it, I guess you could say. We've gone through this last 15 years of science versus religion. It's not. They coexist inherently. And me and my engineering brain was like, okay, what is it? What does it mean? Looking at the history, looking at the text, Case for Christ, that movie when it came out.
Yeah.
Wow. And then the book is like, this helps me in my brain put 1 and 1 together to equal 2. I don't have to go to my bishop or my pastor and ask his or permission to see if this is right or wrong. I can sit down, I can read something, I can look at history, I can see that we got 5,000 manuscripts of John. And what does it mean that they're not all exactly the same? Looking through the logical type stuff. And so that's sort of what saved me, was just sitting down in my room at night in the evening and digging in.
That is a big difference when you think of anything that I would say is, whether it's cult or off the beam of truth. Typically, there's leaders who are saying, just trust us.
Always.
Right?
Always.
And if you're a true gospel-centered pastor, leader, you should always be willing to say, check in the scriptures.
Exactly.
And if the scriptures say I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
Yep. Yep.
Right? If I don't get it right,
Yep.
it's because I didn't get it right. Don't just trust me. But the control factor, I just listen to, don't just read what we say. Just you hear that in all just different shapes or sizes.
If I hear that, my PTSD just like goes overboard. It's just like, no. You know, I manage a crew of engineers here on the East Coast, and we've come to teach our engineers. We work with high-end PhD clients. We're in the science space. And from day one, you know, one of my best teachers in college told me, don't ever pretend that you know something.
Yeah.
People know, right? If you don't know something, some of the most intelligent words you can ever say is, I don't know. But let's figure it out.
Let me see if I can find out.
Let me see if I can find out. Yep.
Yeah.
And knowing also, too, is there are some things that are not yet revealed to us, right? The word says it. Some things are not yet revealed to us. And so there has to be some faith in the Bible and
Just
in
has to
Christ.
be reasonable and based on something.
It has to be reasonable and based on something. I can't have some guy running a church saying, you know, just believe me. I got you. And no, I'm done. I'm out. So,
Yeah.
you know,
So
so
you're
I may
doing
be a
all
pain
that.
in your butt eventually, sometimes in the
Yes.
future, but just tell me I don't know and we'll figure it out over
Yeah,
time.
I don't know.
Yeah.
So you're going through this process. About how long before you start to really see the truth?
So it was 2014, I think, was around the time that I had that incident with my son, 13, 14. We went back to church about a year and a half, so 2015. It was about a year and a half to almost 2 years of just saying, I almost said, is God real? Or all of this is fake. You know, I almost became an atheist. Not an agnostic, but an atheist, saying, I've done my due diligence, I've done my research, and I know God's not real. I almost got there, and it took about a year and a half. But then I knew I would have been lying if I ever said that too, because I know, and I've known from day one, since I was a little guy, it's just Christ is there. Christ is watching over us. So it was, okay, what's real? What does this mean? Where can I go? Bible. I know the Bible's real because the history that I went through over that year and a half, 2 year researching the case for Christ, and, you know, these different types of resources, what is in those 66 books is real. It's true. It's legit. Okay. I need to find a church or a religion or a cult or a group or whatever that focuses on these 66 books. And luckily we were in Southern California. We had family members on Monica's side that were going to Calvary Chapels. Calvary Chapel is a huge movement out there, right? It's what was it? The hippie days is when they came out, right? Back in those days, the movie just came out about it. Yeah. And it was perfect for what God knew I needed at the time. I needed scripture-focused teaching and nothing else.
Yep.
I needed to get into the Word and understand what's real, what's not, what do I need to, you know, how does this affect me? Who is Christ? And the Gospels. You know, in Mormonism, I never went through the Gospels. I didn't even go through this faith. People would say the Gospels. I used to think all 66 books, plus Doctrine and Covenants, plus Book of Mormon, plus Pearl, that was the gospel in my mind at the time.
That's a big gospel.
It's a huge gospel. That's amazing. And so I didn't know what the Torah was. I didn't know what the Tanakh was. I didn't know what you know, the letters were, epistles. I didn't know none of that. You know, none of the basics of what, you know, what our today study of the Bible is. So I went through and just started to learn that kind of stuff and started to go to Calvary Chapel. Calvary Chapel, Chino Valley, which is just down the road from Calvary Chapel, Chino Hills, who their pastor there is one of the big national pastors. But I did there, like what I'm doing here, so okay, I need to get into the men's groups. You know, what are the men's groups that are here? What's going on here? How can I get involved? How can I serve? How can I do it? And they said, well, there's a group that meets on Tuesday night, or I don't remember which night, but said, okay, I'm going to sign up for that class. Walked into that class. Now, I was thinking it was going to be a Bible study, and it was, but God knew what I needed. It was a Bible study based on lust. And I thought, oh, no.
Wasn't signing up for this.
You just kicked the crap out of me for the last 2.5 years, God. Now you want to do this, But it was good because I attended, and it was a 16-week course, I think, or a 10-week course, something like that. And they did it over and over and over and over. Every 10 weeks, it restarted and restarted and restarted. So I did it like 3 times in a row. And it was because God knew that was my big sin at the time.
Yeah.
Other than, a little bit of anger, or a lot of anger. He knew me being as a traveling engineer, spending 150 nights a week or a year in hotels, pornography and lust was my big thing. And so he was like, all right, if you're all in on this chasing after me, you got to clean it up. And he knew exactly how to do it.
You just sign up for a class and it's that.
Yeah. I signed up to, I was hoping it was going to be like Matthew 101, right? Maybe get into a little bit of Mark or Luke.
Yeah.
But no, it was true, full on lust.
God knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. He absolutely knew what he was doing. And then the boys were getting a little bit older. The older one, Andrew, was now going into junior high. It's okay. Well, this church we started going to, Calvary Chapel, is about 25 minutes away from us. And in Southern California, 25 minutes.
That's not a lot.
No.
Driving 25 minutes isn't a lot, but none of our kids, our kids weren't going to school with the same kids.
Yeah.
Right? We weren't doing life with the people at that church.
Yeah.
We were going to church with them, but not doing life.
Yeah.
And through everything, you've got to do life with the people you go to church with. You have to. So we found a church close by. They were actually doing church out of the local high school. Started going there. Not a church that went verse by verse. It was a topical church, but it was still, biblically based, teaching the word, all of it. Monica and I got involved in youth group. And just, went down that road and got involved and got the boys involved. And Andrew was on fire. And it was a good thing. It was a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And just didn't really look back. When I did eventually decide, okay, this is it. This is Christ. And this is where we need to go. I need to officially break my ties with the Mormon faith. Because the missionaries were still coming over. Monica and I have an inside joke. We've moved, like, I don't know many other people, but we've moved 6 or 7 times since we were married.
Yeah.
Every 3 or 4 years, we got a house and resold it, and got another house, resold it, like most people. It's funny, every time we moved, the missionaries were at our new house before we were. So the inside joke is, if you ever needed to find anybody, the FBI has nothing on the Mormon faith.
Yeah.
They know what's going on in the world in terms of genealogy, where people are. If you want a database that's accurate, this church is immaculate when it comes to that. And the reason behind that is they believe in baptism of the dead, baptism for the dead. And they want to save everybody. Even if you didn't convert to Mormonism before you died, they will do baptism for you.
That's right. Yeah.
And I did that as a kid. All of us kids, they take the kids to do that. So once you become baptized at 8 years old, you're now deemed available to be a vessel to be baptized for the dead.
Wow. Did you ever, when you're a kid, you do things and you don't ask questions.
That's just it. You don't ask questions. Yeah, you're like, it's another field trip.
Yeah.
And it's not like they just go to the local church or the local chapel and they do it in the tub like what we have here. They actually take us to the temple. It's the only time I've ever really been in one of the inner chambers of the Mormon temple. And now I think about this. I wasn't planning on talking about this, but you walk into this temple and it's almost Lord of the Rings type inside of there. So they have this huge baptismal font being held up on the backs of 3 oxen. And it's all huge marble statues, like
being held up. You have to walk up these huge granite or marble
And are they
stairs.
saying you're being your, you know, Dean
Yep.
Jackson, who's dead,
Yep.
but you're being baptized?
Yep. Depending on how many kids
Does a family member have to like submit that, or do you just go to the cemetery and be like, all right, we're doing like someone could do me
do
someday?
it. They do it. In fact, Israel and the Jewish faith sued the church 10, 12 years ago, maybe 20 years ago. They sued the Mormon faith, telling them, don't you dare put one of our Israeli names on your lists, because they were doing baptism of the dead for Jews. So no, nobody puts name on. It's just they go to the rolls of the dead and they go to a cemetery and they, okay, so and so. Maybe even if they weren't Mormon, we're going to do it just in case.
Well, at least they're zealous.
Oh, they are, yeah, very zealous when it comes to that. So yeah, I was. Gosh,
So
I
was it weird for you? I'm assuming you got baptized when you came
did.
to Christ. Did
Yep.
you? Was it refreshing? 'Cause you're like, this is legit, or was it like, oh man?
in the Mormon faith?
No.
No, afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah, afterwards, absolutely. Yeah, it's when we eventually went to. So coming to find out, what the word is really, that sinner's prayer, right? What is a sinner's prayer? What it is, what it means, and in the Calvary Chapel movement, it's very much a public declaration, right? You stand up in front of the church and I am a sinner. I know Christ is our Lord and Savior. I am sorry. I know you were, you died and you were resurrected for us. And so I did that out at Calvary Chapel at a men's conference, a weekend men's conference, and, became convicted and said, okay, this is where I'm going. This is where, this is real. And then about a year later, I was at that other local church by our house, and my niece had decided she wanted to get baptized. And the way they did that was very much like the Hillsong type movement, where whoever wants to get baptized, come on up.
Yeah.
And, you got a cavalcade of people go up and they get baptized. And here's my 13-year-old niece going off into this crowd of people. You're like, where's she going? And so my wife kicks me in the backside and she goes, you go with her. Make sure she doesn't get lost. So I follow her through, and through that process, it's, you know what? I need to do this. And so I put a shirt on and got baptized in front of everybody out in the common at the high school there.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was a wonderful thing. It was a good thing. Whether it was real or not, I mean, it was truly a public declaration that Christ is mine, or I am Christ's, and He is in me now.
If somebody, and perhaps you've had this question, but if somebody were to say, a skeptic, so not a believer,
Yep.
and they were to say, look, man, you just went from one
Yeah.
kind of crutch to another.
Yep.
What would you say the difference between your time in Mormonism and your time as a believer in Christ?
I would say Christ was with me the entire time. Just like I mentioned, Christ is not bound by any walls, no matter what's on them. So Christ was there with me. And the difference is I now base my faith upon His Word and what's in His Word, rather than what has been told to me. Reading His Word, praying upon His Word, meditating upon His Word, and always, always, always asking questions of Him and of the people around me. I feel my faith is strong enough and has a foundation upon Him today, where in the past it was built upon wanting to be part of the crowd, wanting to be part of the family, wanting to be part of the culture.
To advance yourself too, be more successful.
Yep.
Nothing wrong with that, but
No.
there's no salvation in that.
There's no salvation in that. And that's just it. It really is. That was one of the hard things for me to come to when I came to my faith today. Was a big thing out there is faith versus works, right?
Yeah.
I guess it's always been a big thing within the Christian faith, is faith versus works. What saves you? What doesn't save you? And, I'm so glad I come to realize again, Ephesians 2, it's not works. It's not my works.
Right.
It's His works. And His works can't work until my faith lets Him come in me and do His work through me. It took me a little while to understand that and grasp that, because growing up in a faith-based system was, no, you got to go dig the holes yourself. No, you've got to do this. You've got to do that. You've got to, none of that, right? None of it comes through me.
It's you know, it's not just a works-based religious system. It's a works-based world.
It is.
So whatever someone's version is, how perverted it might be or how quote unquote moral it might be, it comes down to be good enough, be strong enough, or always, right?
Yep.
And that's the classic phrase of Christianity is the only not do it religion, but it's been done for you, you know, because it is inherent in our human thinking. We have to achieve it.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, political, religious, business,
Absolutely.
family, money. It's I have to be better.
It's so humanistic.
Yeah.
And the first word in your sentence you just said is I.
Aye.
And that's what it comes to, is it's not I, but him.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
it's for him.
It has to be for him. If it's not through him, by him, for him, then it's us, and we're pretty bad people.
Yeah.
When it comes to that, you know, I heard somebody on one of the reels on YouTube. I'm not on socials much, but I probably watch way too much YouTube.
Ends up washing out Facebook. Yeah, I used to make fun of my wife. She'd be like, "Oh, I'm not going on TikTok," and then she's watching reels on Facebook or whatever it's called, and I'm like, those are the same videos I just saw them 2 years ago.
Yep.
And they were probably on YouTube before that.
Yep. So mine is.
But yeah, so you were watching a reel.
Yeah, watching reel, and somebody had mentioned, you know, true Christianity, Bible-based Christianity, is the only faith where our God doesn't require us to go up to him.
Right.
It's the only faith where our God comes down to us.
And do you think that concept, because you've said several times, Christ has always been with me, you know, and I think it's important people to realize that that doesn't mean that you were a Christian at that time.
No.
But he knew you.
He knew
and
me.
He was hunting you
Absolutely.
down.
Yeah. You know, with and the way I look at it is he knew us before we were born, right?
Yep.
He knew us before we were even conceived. He knew where we were going to be. And if we have time, I'll speak to that on the Mormon side, but he knew us from the time we were born. Just because we say we're going to get baptized doesn't make us Christian. Just because we say we're Christian doesn't mean we're saved. Just because we've done all the things that, you know, become members of a church, or we pay tithing, or we do the things that we say are good and honest, and Christ is real, and he knows you're real, and he is there with you from the day you're come out of that womb and even before. Whether you can feel him or not, that's between you and him. But I've known that he's been there from the beginning. You know, from the time my mom got divorced, dad was gone. It's hard to put words behind it, but I could always feel him just there, especially in the hard times, but in the good as well.
So what would you say to someone, because sometimes these episodes will get someone who's like, I got to send this to so-and-so, right?
Yeah.
So we don't really have a lot of viral episodes, but I think you have some episodes that get targeted.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. That's why we do this, right?
That's good.
To someone who, like I said in the beginning of our conversation, they have some kind of religious background that was poor. And, you know, even if there was good aspects like you had, but just sometimes not at all, whether it was fundamental, like in a Christian denomination or a Jewish denomination or Islam, whatever it is, and they've just they took it and said, none of it's true, but maybe there's something nagging at them, which I'm sure you and I would say, that's God hunting you down. What would you say to them? Like, I can't, I was hurt, I was abused, that pastor, that priest, that whatever. How would you answer that?
It's not Christ, it's man.
Yeah.
It's not Christ, it's man. Men and women create and run churches. Christ and the Spirit is what keeps people in his sight, in his arms, in his presence. Don't let what men do take your knowledge and that gut feeling that you have, that nagging feeling. Don't let them destroy that.
Yeah.
because that's what the devil wants. For the agnostics and the atheists especially, it takes more faith to be an atheist than it does a Christian. Those same questions that you have, ask it of every faith that you come in encounter with. You know, I don't want to say don't trust men, because there are some very good people. There are.
Well, I was going to say, because you have seen the value, because one wouldn't probably blame you if you had said, you know what, I'm a Christian, but I'm just going to kind of do my own thing.
Yeah.
Because I don't trust, because I've been lied to by people I respected.
Yeah.
Right?
And the people that were closest to
Yeah.
them.
And so if that can happen,
Yep.
how am I going to trust this, Walton character, here in Uxbridge? But you have seen the value, and obviously some of it maybe because you came to know Jesus as part of a fellowship of a church, but you still have seen the value of, because it's biblical, to be a part of a community of faith.
You have to.
Knowing it's not that pastor that can do anything for you, but you still need a church.
You need a church. And I think what taught me that is COVID. So we moved here from the West Coast 2019.
Yeah.
Settled into Mendon September 2019, got the boys in school. Andrew was going into his sophomore year. So
And then,
yeah. Right. We had found a church local in Mendon, started to get plugged in, started to do the things, and then everything just went, you're not going nowhere.
Yeah.
Which was a little bit of a blessing. I'll tell you about that later.
It was cool for 2 weeks.
It was good. Yeah, it was awesome for 2 weeks. And then you realize, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
But then moving into a new community, new people, no friends, nobody. We've got some great friends around the corner who are also transplants. So we do Thanksgiving together. We do Christmas together, right? We're doing life with them is what we would say now. And we said, oh, well, we can do church home. And we have some very great online pastors we've listened to, good biblical pastors, Athey Creek is a church out of Portland. Brett Maters, his last name, comes out of, again, the Calvary sort of mentality. His dad came out of there. A lot of great, Tony Evans, and a lot of these online resources, which are good intellectual resources, spiritual resources. But you've got to do faith with people, not with a computer.
Yeah.
Faith is life.
Yeah.
And that's what it came down to is if I lose my job, who can I call at 2 a.m. to bring me a dinner because Monica is hungry and I can't go get food?
When you're weak, who can be strong?
Exactly.
And when you're weak, you need to be strong for them.
Yes. And that's the commission, right? Is to go out, spread his word, bring people to me, and be part of the church. We are all part of that church. And that's what really brought us here was, trying to find a place locally with us who is biblically based and has a proper structure, and there's no hierarchy from what we can see. Now, give us 3 years. Well, I'm sure I'll find warts by then, but we're not going
Give it
anywhere.
6 months,
Yeah. But you've got to do church. You've got to be part of it. And it's not Sunday. We're here Saturday or Sundays.
Yeah.
But that's not church. It's, when we go to the Dion's on Tuesday night to do our marriage, classes, not classes, but, we get together and chat.
Yeah.
Or when we're getting together with the guys on Wednesday and we're doing Bible study.
Yeah.
Or when, a guy out of my Bible study's busted his foot and you need somebody to go build a ramp. That's church.
Right.
That's doing church.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of those people that you asked about earlier, those people who are asking about faith and what is church and what does it mean? That's what it means. And a lot of those people who ask those questions are asking the same kind of questions like, how can God be so mean? Or, why does God allow this to have happen? Those are hard questions and they're hard to answer, but those are usually the people that are looking for the good. They're looking for what is so good about this? And building a ramp for somebody, that's the good, right? That's what God creates you to do. And it's not us doing it.
Right.
It's him doing it through us.
Yeah. Yeah. So true. Yeah. You just want people to not, like you said, let the past sins of men or women, we say mankind, human beings, be the reason you throw God out.
You can't.
Yeah.
You can't. And we've, in the Christian faith, we've seen it a lot recently with the scandals,
Yeah.
right? The scandals. Oh, that person was a representative of Christ. Yes, he or she was. But he wasn't Christ.
No.
And that's what we have to remind ourselves, that he or she was a human. Whether it was a big scandal, like, what was the Indian guy's name?
Ravi Zacharias.
Ravi.
Sure.
I listened to his content. He was part of pulling me out of the Mormon faith, actually.
Yeah. He was huge for me. I think a lot of some people love apologetics for their whole life as a study, which is the defending of the faith. People don't know, but it's often and it was for me. It's when you're new to the faith.
Yeah,
and I was similar. I'm not an engineer or a scientist or anything, but I don't like baloney. So
No.
I'm not buying into it if it doesn't make sense to me. Even if some of it makes sense that no, you're kind of stupid, Jamie.
Yeah.
So there's some stuff here that makes sense to me. Yeah, I am
Yeah.
moron. So, but it had to have like, all right, why do I trust the scriptures and why? So I had to dig down, and Ravi was big on that.
Yeah.
Case for Christ. That's why one of the reasons we hand that out as a book, because it was huge for me. And I'm like, anybody can read this and just okay. It's not going to make you become a Christian, but it can at least help you to realize you've got validity to it. This
it makes you
just
ask questions.
yeah.
Coming up in the Mormon faith was, again, the King James Bible. You need to listen to the King or read the King James Bible, and that's it. And you don't ask questions like what the Case for Christ makes you ask. Because one of the big things in the Mormon church is the translation argument, right? Everything gets lost in translation. It's been translated so many times from Hebrew to English to Spanish, and then King James, and then now, since King James, it's been translated into ESV and NIV and NLT and all of these different translations. Getting across and asking, or getting myself to a point of asking, what does the word translation mean?
Yeah.
Basic, right? That kind of thinking isn't there within the Mormon faith in a lot of these cults.
It's very Americanized and English focused. Like,
Is, absolutely.
Yeah. You're not even accounting for the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other languages it's been translated into.
Exactly.
And that's a translation so you can read it.
Yeah.
If you learn the Greek or the Hebrew, you can read the original documents. But
Well, they use the whole telephone analogy, right?
yeah.
And they say, okay, by the time it gets to the end of the circle, it's going to be a completely different statement. Well,
So
it's
that's
not
why
telephone.
they say, so just read the Book of Mormon.
Yeah, so just read the Book of Mormon because this came straight from the prophet, and there's
It's
no
English.
changes.
There's no translation.
Yeah.
But what about if I'm Spanish and I'm Mexico and I want to?
Oh yeah, they'll change it to Spanish for you. Yeah, it does.
The telephone game doesn't work anymore. That
What's good for
the prophet
me
will
and-
make sure.
Yeah, the prophet will make sure. Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a bit hypocritical, but
Yeah,
that's what.
But
we do
and you
best.
see that with all of these cults and
Always,
these
yeah.
faiths
Yeah.
are like that. Even, and you've probably seen it in other, like you said, the fundamentalist type faiths. They use that same argument in a lot of things.
Or the Roman Catholic, it was for a while everything was in Latin. It's like there's still some like you can't even understand it. What are we doing?
No.
And so there's just been an element of that whenever you're trying to like not get people to ask questions.
Yeah.
And then it just becomes all surface and do it. Do
is.
it. Even the mass itself or the church itself. It's like just go, say the prayers, do the symbols.
Yes.
You're good. Take communion, whatever it is for that particular church or denomination.
Don't ask questions.
Don't ask questions.
And that's what it comes down to is don't ask questions. And I'm to the point, kick rocks. If you're not going to listen to my questions, then I'm out. And
yeah. But meanwhile, like Jesus loved questions.
that always he loved it, not only from the people who are following him. even though
Sometimes
they
be
frustrated
like,
the heck out of him.
He's still drinking milk? Come on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
But he'd still answer it.
yes. But he was a true apologetic out there, right? He was taking on the Pharisees. He was taking on these people, saying,
Yeah.
"No, you."
And his attitude changed depending when when he's with Nicodemus, he's like, dude, you should know this.
Yeah.
When he's with the woman at the well, he's
Yep.
a little less.
Little less in between your eyes, right?
Yeah, a little more
Little more
forgiving of, yeah, her lack of understanding. But
Yep.
yeah, well, man, I appreciate you telling your story and just because like I said, I think it was your struggle first of all,
It was. I
but
appreciate
you
it.
found Christ through it,
Yeah. Yeah.
and that's sort of the point is God uses those struggles.
Yes.
And I think that maybe that's another takeaway for somebody. It's like don't stop whatever the struggle is, but don't. The other side of this struggle, if you stay faithful, is going to be something really good.
Always.
Yeah.
Always. And so
Yeah.
I come down to, I teach my boys, they're 18 and 21 now, but I've always taught them is don't be afraid to break it.
Mm.
Right? Don't be afraid to struggle. That's where growth happens. That's where change happens. That's where you learn.
Mm.
So for those people you asked about who would be asking about faith is continue to ask the questions with an open heart and an open mind and a true, honest, humble desire to find the truth.
Yeah. Humble's
Right.
huge.
Yeah.
Don't go in with your preconceived notion.
No, don't go home with your yeah. Joseph Smith, like I said, it was James 1:5, and it says, if you don't know, come to me and ask. But he didn't read James 1:6 and James 1:7 and James 1:4.
Well, I was going to say, it's like I could ask with faith, and he tells me that Joseph Smith's full of it. What does Joseph Smith have to say to me then?
Yeah, look at the other hand.
Yeah, it's cherry picking verses.
It
You
is.
do
It
that.
really is.
But you go in with it. With this is what I want, and I'm gonna, that's what I'm gonna get. And some people you don't really want God.
That's it.
You're like, I don't believe any of that. Why not? Why? You knew that. That it was written by hundreds of men or many men over hundreds of years. And the cliches, and it's like it's too important. You could always say no to God.
Always.
You could always eventually just say, you know what? I've researched it.
Yep.
I've done it. I'm done with it. You could always make that decision.
Yep.
But what if it's true and you just didn't even look into it
Yeah.
because of whatever? You just wanted to live however you wanted to live, or you had too much pain in your past, or too much even religious pain. Don't let all of that. The enemy will use it and say, yeah, you don't need God.
Yeah.
That's stupid. That's Jesus now. Right. And it's like, all you're hurting is yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, humans have made the chessboard so easy for Christ, or not for Christ, but so easy for the devil.
Yeah.
They've made it, he doesn't have, his game book is like 7 plays.
It's the same thing. Yeah, it's always the same thing.
Right? He knows your vice, or he
Yep.
knows what's going to get you, and then he just throws the whispers in there.
Mm-hmm.
Where Christ simply says, I'm knocking, open the door.
Come to me.
Come to me.
Yeah.
Ask the questions. You're never going to know everything. It'll be revealed to you in time. But be humble, be willing to listen, and be willing to change if what you find is real and true.
Yeah.
And that's what I would want to get to everybody is just, continue to ask, continue to not challenge, but continue to ask those questions. And when I say don't challenge, is don't become confrontational, right? Don't be that Hebrew Israelite on the corner screaming and yelling at everybody. You're horrible, right?
Yeah.
Have an honest, truthful, proper discussion. That's what he says, iron sharpens iron. You learn upon one another.
Be willing to say, I don't know, like you
Be
said earlier.
willing to say, I don't know. You have to. You may not know today. You may not know tomorrow.
Yeah.
But don't walk away from it. Continue to investigate. Continue to see what's going on. I got a few things I'm going to ask you about, between free will and, all these different things.
Yeah.
And that's how he wants us to do. And Paul said it when he was, writing his last books in jail. It was, I am the chiefest of sinners.
Yeah.
And he still has questions, but he's still there, and he's still asking. He's still in it. He's still in the game.
My grace is sufficient for you. Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think one other good thing too, so at least for those who might see this locally, might not have known you before, or they do now, and they can maybe go up to you if they have questions like that,
Absolutely.
or just like whatever.
Yep.
And
I
just
may
say-
not know it, but I'll help.
or even
figure it
just
out.
they have a similar, whether they were Mormon or not,
Yeah.
but they have a similar experience or something
Yep.
that's kind of holding them back. You might be a good resource for them. So
Yeah.
I really appreciate you just
Absolutely.
being an open book and saying, "Here's my story."
Yep. Well, that's one thing I learned through this whole process is, as he says, bring your sins to your brothers, lay it out on the table so that your brothers can look at it, analyze it, and help you through the process.
Yeah.
So, absolutely.
Got to be broken before you can get fixed.
You have to.
That's what the gospel's all about.
You have to. You have to. It's a hospital.
Amen. All right. Well, thanks for being on, Jamie. I really appreciate it, brother.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it.
thanks.
It's a good thing.
And cut.